Hi there. So today I'm going to tell you about taking regression results out of R and presenting them in a clear and readable format within a Word document. I'm going to illustrate that using this tutorial exercise from week 3, but this is the kind of thing that you'll be required to do for your homework exercises and for the big assignment later on as well. This is an important skill to take away from this subject. Is not just to be able to run the regressions and do the statistics and to talk about them, but also to present them in a clear and professional manner. So no matter what kind of statistics, quantitative analysis you end up doing after you leave here, you need to be able to present your work in a way that is clear, looks professional, shows respect for your audience, that kind of stuff. And it's good practice to start working on that now. So I'm going to give you a few tips for how to do that and to make it easier using some of the facilities within R. So I'll illustrate this within tutorial 3. I'm going to want you to start using some of these kinds of things right from your first and second homework exercises. In tutorial 3, you will be looking at some OLS and two-stage least squares regressions relating some newborn birth weights, there's a birth weight variable here, to the variable called packs, which is the number of packs of cigarettes that the mother smoked during the pregnancy. So I won't talk about the economics or the econometrics or anything of this. I just want to show you the computational side of this. So in this tutorial you'll end up estimating 3 regressions. So an OLS regression of the log of birth weight on the packs, a two-stage least squares regression using cigarette price as an instrument for packs, and also the first stage of that two-stage least squares regression. So you'll end up having 3 regressions there. Alright, so I'll leave the interpretation of those regressions for the tutorial itself. So let's go into R here, and what we have in front of us now is just a little program, birthweight.r, this script here, which is doing those 3 regressions that you would require for that tutorial and printing out summary statistics for each. And what I want to show you here is how you take the regression results and get them into a nice readable form into Word. So we'll do this in the first instance just for one equation. So I'm just going to put a stop command there, so that when we run this script it will only run those first couple of commands and then it will stop. So we're just going to have a look at the regression output for that first OLS regression there. Okay, so let's run that. Oh, look at that. I must have forgotten to set my working directory. Set working directory, and we'll run it again. Okay. I'm going to leave that mistake there because that's a good reminder that if you don't set your working directory, you get error messages like that. Okay, all of us make those mistakes. So if you can't find your data file, set your working directory. A good message there. All right, here is the regression output from that first regression that we ran. This funny error message that we've got here, by the way, that's just the output from this stop command. You can ignore that, that's fine. Alright, so this output here, now let's suppose this is now your homework and you've been told to put your R output into a Word document, okay? So let's create ourselves a Word document, and this is not the homework, this is the tutorial. So let's say I'm going to call this tutorial 3 can be the title of my document here, and I might center that so it's a heading now, and the results for the first regression are as follows. Okay, and now I want to put these results here into Word. So I'll just select them, copy them, paste them in here, go bang like that, and then I would go on and talk about it. Okay, the interpretation of these results is ... Okay, all right. So are we happy with that? Clearly not. Okay, so if we look at what we've got on that screen, it's not very clear, it's not very easy to see. I wonder if I can make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So that's what you would see on the page, something that looks like that. That's not particularly clear or professional looking. Okay. Now at the here's a minimal thing you could do. So here are the coefficients, the estimates, the standard errors and all this kind of stuff. It's all jumbled up, right? It looked clear enough over here, didn't it? So you can see which are the estimates, which are the standard errors, which are the T's and so on fairly easily in the R output. But in Word, they've become all jumbled up. That's no good at all, is it? So a minimal thing that you can do is to take this stuff that we copied from R, and the problem is it's in a font. In this case, my Word has defaulted to this Cambria font, and it's a proportionally spaced font. Not all of the characters take up the same width. If we were to replace this font with one which is fixed width, like Courier, then, miraculously, everything lines up. So that's the first thing that you'd want to do, is to change to a font such that everything lines up, and so you can actually read the output, right? And potentially make it a bit smaller, even better. Now everything fits across the page as well. And now that's looking like the R output again, isn't it? So that's not horrible. If you were writing a report about this kind of thing, then you wouldn't just leave it like that. In our lecture notes, I have given you output that looks like this for a particular reason, which is I'm wanting to show you what R gives you and how to interpret what R gives you. When you are writing a report, you want to present things to the reader, not to educate them about R, but to educate them about your analysis. So, for example, what you might do is remove those things if you're not going to talk about them, okay? And just present, let's say, the coefficients. Obviously, you would want to say more about just the first regression, actually spell out what the first regression is. You're regressing log of birth weight on packs and talk about those variables and so on. So I won't try and illustrate all of that here. Now, at least what we have there is a little table of results that is now readable. That's kind of a minimal requirement. We could leave it there, but that's not really good enough. What we need instead is something that looks a bit more professional, something that looks like what you will see in kind of books and articles is a good kind of measure of this. Now I've opened one up here. This is an article that we will be referring to for the second homework task. And for the time being, it doesn't matter what this is, but what we have here is a table of regression results in the usual way that these things get presented in kind of journal articles, where we've had obviously a bunch of, so the columns here are a bunch of different equations that have been estimated, and then we have coefficient estimates and standard errors, and as a descriptive statistic in this case, just an R squared and nothing much else. Okay. So we want something that looks a bit like that, because that's fairly easy to follow and to read. So what I'm going to show you is how you can get output like that from R fairly easily. All right. In order to do that, the first thing we need is to grab a new package for R. There's a couple of packages that help you with presenting regression results. The one that I'm going to show you here is called texreg. Okay, so there's at least one or two others. Stargazer is another one, for example, but I'm going to show you that one, this texreg one. And the first time, this is the same as when we did AER, the first time you use this package, you need to do this installation that I'm showing you. Once you've done that step that I've just shown you there once, you're finished. Okay, you don't need to do that again on your computer. What you do need to do, if you're going to use this now is to call the library, just as we did with AER. We're going to call the texreg library there. Okay. So that makes it available, and what texreg gives you is commands that will produce tables from equation objects. And I'm going to show you one that works like this. HTML_reg. Now what that does, that's a command which is provided to us within the texreg package, and it actually produces a table in HTML format. But the nice thing about HTML format is that it can be read into Word. Okay, so there are 3 formats of tables that that package provides. This is the one that works if you want to use Word. I'm assuming that most of you will be familiar with Word and wanting to use Word. It's not necessarily the best package for this kind of thing, so I produce all of our output in LaTeX, all our notes and resources for this subject, which is better for this kind of statistical mathematical stuff, but that's a separate topic. So we're going to create here, using this HTML_reg, a table of EQ1. So EQ1 is this object. So the first argument to this HTML_reg command is the object that we want to tabulate, and then the file is going to be saved into the working directory called EQ1, and I've given it a Microsoft Word extension, and that will make sure that the file is openable in Microsoft Word. So I'll just pop back to the files. We'll see it pop up when we run this program. Okay, so let's run that now. And there's our new document. So I'm just going to click on that, and here is our table. Okay, so now we have, kind of like what I showed you in that paper, we have the equation tabulated in this form where we have the coefficient estimates and the standard errors. We have the stars added to tell you what's significant at what different levels, and some summary statistics, R-squared, adjusted R-squared, and stuff like that. Okay, so if you wanted to take some output like that and copy it, oops, so we'll copy the entire table and go across to this document that we're creating here, and then you can just paste that in, and then carry on working. Okay, so the point about this kind of table relative to this kind of table is that it, while it has the same information, it's obviously more clearly presented for the reader, more professionally presented for the reader. Now, we're not done. That's not enough, because we have this model 1 heading, and you could just type something in there. So you could call that equation 1 for the tutorial, or you could put the dependent variable name there, you know, birth weight. And we have the caption for the table called statistical models, which is not terribly informative, so we'd want to do something about that. Now, you could change those things in Microsoft Word if you wanted to. That's up to you. I'm going to show you how you can change them back in the program, and the reason for that is if you change them back in the program, then you can just be regenerating these tables as need be, and you don't have to continually then come in and make all the fixes within Microsoft Word afterwards. Because in reality you often find that you need to come back and run these things a few times before you get exactly what you want. So let me show you how the customizations of this work. There's lots of customizations. I'm certainly not going to show you them all, just a couple. So in the first instance, let's say we want to put a caption to that table that says something more informative than just statistical models. So we might say something like caption is equal to regression of log birth weight on PACS. Okay, you get to choose that, whatever you want to call it. And having the caption below the table looks, to me, a little bit odd. So we're going to put the caption above. Oops, I'm going to put the caption above the table. So caption above. You notice you get this help, right? So as you start to type these options, you get some help. So option above is equal to true. That's going to put the caption above. If you want to know where all of these things are, these options that I'm just kind of apparently plucking out of the air, you can go to help and you can type in texreg in this case. Okay, and you'll come up with the help here. And it's there's lots of stuff here, right? Here's the HTML reg that I'm talking about, and it has all of these options, right? There's lots of stuff that you can mess about with in customizing these tables if you really feel like it, and I don't think you will. But if you want to find out what all of these options are, then you can go through these lists and it will tell you how they work. Okay, you can spend a lot of time doing that if you've got nothing better to do. So specifying these kinds of options will give us a better table. It will give us a meaningful heading in a place where we want it, on the top of the table instead of at the bottom. And let's also give the name of our column, the regression here, something better than model 1. In this case, let's just go custom model names. Okay, a character vector of labels for the models is what it says. And in this case, we've only got one model. We're going to have 2 models soon. So I'll just call that question 1A, isn't it? So we'll now have that inserted as the name of that column. And the other thing that we might do is, and this is a bit optional, but I look at this and think I wouldn't mind seeing 1 extra decimal place. So if you want to change the number of digits, then we could just say, let's have a look at 3 decimal places instead of 2. Okay, so you can specify all these kinds of options like this if you want to beautify your table in various ways. So if we run it again, it tells us that the table has been written. So if we go back here and open up, that's opened up the old one, isn't it? So if we go back here and open it up, we get the new one, which has the title that we have specified, the name, the column heading for the model. We have 3 decimal places now, so you can see that all of those things are changeable. Alright, that's nice. Now, most often we have not just one regression like this to present, but we have several. In this case, we have in this tutorial we have 3. So let's see how that works. I'm now going to present all 3 of those equation outputs within the one table. So I've just copied this command down to here, and now I'm going to start messing with it. So in order to create a table with multiple equation outputs in it, we create a list like that. Alright, so this is the main thing here. The command list creates a list, as you might think, and then you just list here the equations that you want to see produced by this command. Let's put this in another file. Let's say all equations.doc. Our caption can be, well, regressions. Now they're not all of log birth weight, are they? So regressions, let's just call them regressions for tutorial 3, something like that. Okay. Now we have 3 custom model names to specify. So there's question 1A, question 1B, and there's that third, well, question 1B is equation 3. Question 2, equation 2 is for some other question that I can't remember what it is. I'll just call it that. It doesn't matter. We're just messing about here anyhow. Okay. So this command here now is going to give us a table with, now I've got some unmatched brackets. See how it's telling me it's got unmatched brackets at the moment, so I'm going to have to find out where they have gone. So we're going to create a table of these 3 regressions. We're going to store it in this file. We've got a new caption like this, and somehow I've lost the brackets. No, it now thinks that I've matched my brackets. I think I've matched my brackets too. Good, let's run that. So what this will do is create a new file, let's hope, called all equations. Yep, there it is. Alright, let's open that guy up. And there we have it, okay? So this is now a table of those 3 regressions in a fairly nice kind of format. And that's ready now. If we select all of that and copy it, we can go across to our tutorial document and we can get rid of all of that rubbish now, and we can just paste in that. Now you're obviously still able to format that as you wish. You can change the bolding or the alignment or anything like that as you wish, but now at least you have a nice easy way to present regression results that is easy to read, of the type that you would require for a report or an article or anything like that. So I'll hope to be seeing you producing some output like that for your homeworks and assignments.